Awesome, man. And how did you say you guys met?
At college, so a while ago, 12 years now, something like that.
Nice. Same with me and my co-founder Zaf, who met in college. Cool, cool, cool.
Yeah,
We live,
that's
by
the
the way.
best, cause cool, 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 cool.
um, yeah, so I'll do the formal spiel. Welcome everyone to the Open Source Founder live stream podcast here with Lucas, CEO of Briefer. Thanks so much for making the time, Lucas.
Thank you so much, Ernest. Appreciate the invite and looking forward to talking a little bit about open source with you.
Likewise, man. I'm excited. Thanks so much. So let's kick it off. You told me last week you were in San Francisco for a Y Combinator reunion. What was that like?
Yeah, exactly. Well, everything was excellent, but the 24-hour flight, besides that, everything was really good. Um, I think SF is just, compared to other places on a very different level, because most people do the same thing. Most people work in tech. There's lots of founders, so it's kind of like you're only speaking to like-minded people and people that have similar challenges to the ones you have, and they have different ideas, and you always come back home with this feeling of like, oh, maybe I should move to SF. So it was really good, and YC. I'm obviously biased because we're backed by YC, but I think they're the best investors in the world. They're always so supportive. When we go there, we meet with our group partners and everything. So, it's pretty good. It was pretty nice.
Did they really encourage you to move to San Francisco? It feels like recently they really added.
Yeah, it does. It does seem like there's a push, and I don't think it's only from them. I think in general there's this kind of like zeitgeist thing going on where everyone's building AI startups, and then they're all flocking to SF, and then
Yeah.
it just the loop just kicks on. Because the city does seem way more lively than it was before. Because we were there last year as well for about 3 to 4 months,
Hmm.
and the city seemed a bit. I don't know. There weren't as many people there, um, and now this time it just felt like there were way more things going on.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm. I believe
yeah,
that.
so it,
I
it
believe that.
felt better. It felt better. It does feel like SF is coming back strongly.
Nice. So before we dive into talking about Briefer and doing a demo, would you like to quickly tell us about your personal background, where you grew up, that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm in Brazil, so we got the Brazil mention thing going, as you mentioned before. So yeah, I was born in Brazil. I studied information systems, which is kind of like computer science in college. That's where I met my co-founder, and that was back in 2012, 13. And we started working on Chai.js and Sino.js together, which some of you may know, popular JavaScript libraries back in the day. Some people still use it. So we started working together on those open source projects, and we always really liked working together. So we worked together there. We had 2 jobs where we worked together, and we always just worked together really well. And then I dropped college to move to London, where I
Hmm.
joined an early stage startup. During the time, I did plenty of things. Ended up leading that team. Wrote a book for many. The books that have the people with the typical dresses on the cover. I wrote one of those. Um, and then after that, I went to work for Elastic as well. The guys that do Elasticsearch, Kibana, the beats, all that. And after that, I decided to move back to Brazil, to start Briefer with my co-founder, and that's pretty much the short version of it.
Love it, man. And you've had a 10-year career in tech and in startups. And I saw in your profile
Yep.
you actually dropped out of college in the fourth year. My co-founder did the
Yeah.
same. Can
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
These days it's harder to make that move because there's more people entering the market, so you kinda need a way to get your foot on the door.
You think college
Um,
is how you do that today?
it's a good way to get your foot on the door. Like imagine, imagine you're you're just starting out and you have no prior experience and no college degree. How do you get your first job? That's really tough.
Well, you can
Um,
contribute to open source and be a cracked engineer on Twitter and
that is true. That is true.
right.
That is true. Yeah, but like, but then I'd say if you're a cracked engineer, then I don't think you need anything else. Right?
I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's a contested opinion about the college. But hey, it's a place where you meet like-minded people when you're like 18, 20, and
Yeah.
you meet a
I think
co-founder
like
too.
you still don't
Happened to
need
both of
that.
us.
Yeah, yeah, no. By no means, I don't think a degree means anything. It just means you were able to grind and not quit for a particular number of years. I don't think it means anything. But it's an easy way to get a job. So there's that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, we'll leave it to that. I think so too. Very
And
very
and it
cool.
also
Yeah.
and to be really honest, it depends on
Hmm.
where you go to college to, right? Like if you're going to MIT and not the college I went to, it's a bit different.
It is a bit different for sure, for sure. So then, briefer now. What was the impetus? Like, did you experience this kind of problem in your past jobs? How did you make the jump to start the company?
Hmm. Yeah, so Briefer wasn't our first product. It's actually a
Hmm.
pivot, and it's not even the product we got into YC with. So when we started, we're both infra people, so we have this bias towards more infra kinds of things. And our first product was something that allowed you to spin up development environments in the cloud. So it was basically something for you to run a command and then get your own, cluster and machine and a place in the cloud where you can ship code to, and it looks exactly like production. And then you fix a whole class of bugs. You don't need to have a powerful machine to run Minikube, which takes your entire RAM and that kind of stuff. Um, but although that's a significant problem, many companies have it. It's somewhat difficult to sell that as a two-person company to large companies, which are the only companies that need it. Um, and what ended up happening is that a lot of people that came to talk to us, they had use cases relating to data. So they either wanted to, have a remote environment where they can run notebooks more easily, and they hate their notebooks, or they had a particular data related workload that they needed to process and things like that. So we started looking into the space and we figured out that lots of people use notebooks and that they suck. And then we started building Briefer. And during that process, we noticed that many people that used our notebooks, they used it for BI purposes. So like to keep track of KPIs. And they had these notebooks that looked more like dashboards. So introduced dashboards into the product as well. So now we're a mix of both. We do both notebooks and dashboards, and that's the whole spiel.
And it's basically Jupyter Notebook, but it's collaborative and real time, kind of like Notion, and then you can plug in
Correct.
your database, do SQL queries, do dashboards, ship them online, share them with people, right?
Exactly. That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Sweet. And open sourcing now, Briefer, which happened this year. Tell us about it.
Yeah, yeah. Last month actually. So it's only been a month, I think. And yeah, it was crazy because I expected it to generate some buzz, but not this much buzz. We got like 3.3 thousand stars in this first month, which was crazy. And out of those 3.3, I think you can see there like the almost 3,000 were in the first week,
Yes,
which is a
that's
bit
insane.
insane. Um, so yeah, it was really good.
And I think like this year you've been on the homepage of Hacker News like 3 or 4 times. So like you guys are pretty active, right?
Yeah, yeah, we're pretty active on AJ. I really like writing. My blog's been there a few times as well, so it's a it's a good way to do marketing is, and it is a way I understand well. So it's a good channel for us.
We'll definitely dive deeper into this. I suggest maybe we first do a demo so we can actually check out Briefer and
Sure,
then we can talk about building the company after. Yeah.
sounds good. Let me share my screen with you guys.
Hmm.
Okay, entire screen. Let me know if you can see it.
Hmm.
Okay. Awesome. So this is
Awesome.
Briefer. I have, a few reports ready here. This is just a dashboard. But when you log in, it looks something like this, right? You have on the left a list of documents. You can put things one inside another, reorder. There's this whole icons thing. You can make things really easy to find. That's the whole point of this lateral bar. No more clicking a bunch of menus to figure out where your things are. And then here in the middle, you have your content, be it a dashboard or a notebook. And if you want to create one of these, you just click the plus button and you get an empty document, as I have here. And then you can go ahead and add a title, like, let's say, add multiple types of blocks to this document. The first one is text. So this text block supports Markdown. So I'll just put Markdown here, just to show that it automatically converts things into pretty text. And then once you've added your context here, or whatever you want to do, you can go and run a query. In this case, I'm going to run a query against my BigQuery. So I'm just going to run a select star here. Let's select everything from my demo e-commerce database.orders. And then now I will run this and I'll fetch the results from my BigQuery and then I'll be able to use them. There we go. So we now have these results. Can you see this query one here, by the way?
Oh yeah, I can see it well. Now it's zoomed in quite a bit.
Okay.
This is way too far away. Maybe we zoom it in again just a little.
Yeah. So this is basically the name of the data frame that you will have available in Python. So if you want to manipulate this data that you just got from your query, you can just go in here, add a Python block, zoom in a little bit. And now you can do query one. And if you run this, you see it's that data frame. Okay. So if you want, you can use Python. I'll ask the AI assistant here to create a scatter plot with penguin data from GitHub. Just so we have something to show here. Gives you a little suggestion there. You can accept this. Run the code. It will pull this data from this place here, penguins.csv, and it will output a scatter plot. You can hide the code. You can put a title like my scatter plot, whatever you want. And then if you don't want to write Python to do a plot, you can also add a visualization block. And within here, you can add, let's select query one, a data frame, and I'll select, it already picked up the fields that I want here. I'll just group by quarter, and then a graph will pop up there. There we go. Your pretty graph there. There's filters and a few other things. Well, one last thing I want to show are the inputs, because you can go and add interactive inputs like this one here, and then you can use them in Python. So let's say your name, and let's call this your name, Ioannis, and then if you do a print your name, you will see that's the variable we had there. And there's more things there, you know, there's drop down dates. You can also schedule this to run periodically, so there's schedules. You can take snapshots periodically as well, so you can see how things change over time. There's a bunch more things, but to keep it short, the thing I want to show the most is actually the dashboard, where you can just go and drag and drop your block. So I'll just put this here and put this here, and then you will build a dashboard with whatever was on your notebook. So you have full flexibility to do whatever you want. And that's the summary. There's quite a few other things which I could show, but I'll keep it brief. No pun intended.
No, this was excellent. Thank you so much. And it was very, very simple to do it. We skipped some steps, maybe like showing how you connect the database, but I'm curious to see the part of actually, if we go back, the part of sharing it with someone, or maybe what it takes to make it available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me go back and share my screen. There you go. So connection database is pretty easy. You just go into data sources and you add the credentials as you would like in any other tool. And that's how you get the database there. But you said you wanted to see the sharing part, right? So the sharing part is basically just you coming here on users and then inviting whoever you want to be part of your workspace, and then they'll get an invite. So you can invite them here, say whether they're a viewer, editor, or admin, and then you just copy and paste the link. Like in this page here, you have the share button. You just
Okay,
copy
make
the link and
public.
send it to them.
So
Yeah,
this
you
can
can also
actually be
make
like a
public
web
if you want
page.
the whole world
Yeah.
to see it. Yeah, correct.
Very cool. Very cool. And that dashboard, is it
Yeah.
kind of like a canvas where you can like throw a lot of things on it and
Yeah.
the
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. It's basically a canvas in which you can reorder the blocks and drag and drop them in here.
super neat. And there was some AI in there too. Solid, solid.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
for
you
people
gotta
to
have it
get
these
started,
days.
what should they do?
So they should just go into briefer.cloud, and then they will find the sign up button there. There's a big sign up button. So if you just go in there and click sign up, you will be prompted to log in either with Google or your email, whatever you think it's easier, and then you can go and log into the cloud. The cloud is the easiest way of getting set up into Briefer and getting beautiful dashboards as the ones you're seeing here. But if you want to run this on your machine, you can also go to github.com/briefercloud/briefer, and there we will find all the instructions you need to run it locally. It should be pretty easy. It should be a single command. So yeah, you can pick whatever is easiest, the cloud or GitHub.
Amazing, amazing, perfect. And we see it right behind us actually, the GitHub repository. What is it like building in public now? Your code base is out there. People can come and contribute or ask you questions. Like, how does that feel?
It's been pretty good. If you go into the pull request tab, by the way,
Hmm.
now that we're here, you will see that there's plenty of people that have been submitting amazing pull requests. Like we've got that one with the MongoDB connection, Databricks connection. Lots of people are helping us build Briefer, and it's awesome because some of these things they're not our top one priority, and we're a small team. So now that people can just open up a PR, it just makes it easier for us to help them. So it's been great.
This is one of the superpowers of open source. And actually, as a transition to discussing building the company and that blog post, well, basically, you can get these contributions and then all these people that help the next people. You get distribution, you get bigger companies to trust you. If the company dies, knock on wood, like, well,
Yeah.
the software is still out there. So I want to hear how you guys as a team decided this and maybe even go into details like the license and considerations like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that this was a pretty obvious decision, and it's something that we wanted to do for a long time. We just waited because when we were just beginning, we wanted to understand a little bit more about what is it that people wanted before we publish this. So we we were closed source since like from January to September, so that's like roughly 8 months, and it was pretty good to do that before we launched because when we launched, it meant we had a really mature product, and that's why I think we got so many stars so quickly because that's the combination of like 8 months of work, and then when you press the button, it makes it seem like oh it just happened, but it had been happening for 8 months before the release. Um, so yeah, so this is something we've always wanted to do. A lot of effort has gone into it, and it was ultimately the right decision because we want as many people as possible to be able to use Briefer, and it helps us get more customers as well. So it's good for everyone, right? So that's what we decided to do. I think the blog post that you're showing like has that in a lot of detail, but I think that the summary, the key takeaway is that like it's good for everyone because it's more users, and more users means it's more likely that we'll find someone that needs the enterprise features, which we charge for. So that's the overall rationale. There's a few other things that we can touch upon, like for example competition, because as soon as you're open source, now it means that the software layer is kind of commoditized because, well, now we have similar features to, let's say, Power BI or whatever other BI software that you have. It's not, they don't have a monopoly anymore on the amount of code that needs to be written for you to create a graph, right? And we do a lot more things, but let's not consider those. If we do the exact same things, but we do it in an open source way, now everyone has access to that, so it's not a differentiator anymore. The differentiator is actually that we do it in a more innovative way, that we do it in a better way, and Power BI is not exactly known for being that innovative and easy to use and forward looking, right? So it forces our competitors to compete in a way that's better for us. So there's that. There's the aspect of contributions as well. Um, and overall is what makes me happier as well. And I think that's important when you're running a company for the long term.
Yeah, the last bit actually is the most important. Like, what do you enjoy doing in terms of building the product, building the community, having the customer relationships, providing value? So that's honestly the best way to rationalize it or explain the decision. I like that. And I want to double click. You said earlier that you worked on this product for 8 months, and it was a polished product, and that's why also it
Yeah.
had this reception. And you people can do it both ways. I mean, there's a lot of people listening who are either founders, commercial open source, or want to become. And so we've seen people that just went and launched with just their intention. This is what we want to do, this is the mission, and here's like just a little bit of code to have a repository up, but nothing really built yet. But you guys went, with a ready product. So people can do it either way. Totally cool. Both work. And in your case, you used Hacker News as one of the distribution channels, and
Hmm.
you're already veterans on it. Tell us about the experience presenting Briefer there, and some of the things that people told you as feedback on the product or otherwise.
Yeah. So yeah, Hacker News worked well, but I think what worked the best was engaging the people that liked it. I think we did a good job in like having the people that start us talk about us. Like we did a few things on LinkedIn and other places, and that proved um, really helpful. But to get back to your question about the feedback that we got, it was pretty positive actually. Because as we're speaking, we had a really polished product, and it was really easy to use, and we put a lot of effort into making it easy to run, and that's why I think so many people were able to run it. So I think that went pretty well, and most of the feedback was positive. I don't think there was any particular feedback that was negative that I'm like, oh, this is a big thing that we need to think through. It's more like if you go into Hacker News, there's some people complaining about AGPL, which is funny because AGPL is approved by the OSI initiative, and if you pick a license that's not approved, people will complain. If you pick a license that's approved, people will complain. If you pick MIT, people complain it's not AGPL. Like there will always be people that think your licensing choice wasn't the best. But I think that all those opinions are valid. There's plenty of interesting thoughts on those, but besides that, I haven't seen um, anything that was negative per se.
That's good. And as you said, you can please some people sometimes. You just cannot please everyone. And
Totally,
Hacker News has its own way of making that apparent.
totally.
So going back to that blog post where you laid it out, um, and yeah, we can have it up here. Cool, cool, cool. And maybe we can show the Hacker News conversation. So I even saw like JJ from Open Source Capital like say, "Wow, like this is the best way to talk about it," even though he hasn't invested in us, which I think was pretty cool. But this is a very, very good reference. Let's see what the comment said. We see Zeke at the top, the founder of Keygen, right? Um, and a reminder that open source isn't a business model, but it is a distribution model or a development model. So if we can double click on this,
Yeah, yeah,
what would you
yeah,
say?
absolutely. I I agree with that because the moment you open source, if you pick a license like ours, which is AGPL, you stop being able to make money on the software that you just open source, right? Because I mean, sure, you can charge for the software. There's this whole GPL thing of like, oh no, you can charge for the software, but not really because anyone can just get it and redistribute it and everything else. But anyway, it is more of a distribution model because you need to figure out how you're going to make money if you're a for-profit company, and I think that it's important to explain to people how you're going to do that. because if you don't, it just means that it's a decision that you're postponing. And in the life of a for-profit company, it's pretty important that you figure out how you're going to deliver the profit part. um, so so yeah, I think in our case, it was pretty straightforward to decide that whatever is needed for like larger enterprises is something that we would eventually charge for, because those companies, they get more value out of Briefer, so I think it's fair that we get a cut. But if you're just a small company getting started and you're fine just like, hosting it on an EC2 or something, that's totally fine as well. Like, if you're a 10-person company, you're not getting as much value as a 1,000-person company. And I don't think it's fair that we charge, these 10 people here the exact same as we would charge the 10,000 people here. And if anything, we can help those 10-person companies grow. And then once they get to this stage, then I'm pretty sure that they will see value in paying for the enterprise features as well. And then that's the fair moment to take a cut. And the way that open source as a distribution model plays out is that it just increases the number of people that get to know your software. So if more people use your software, the more likely you are to get to these 10,000 people companies on this other side that will eventually pay.
Exactly,
And
exactly.
you can do that while doing good for all the other companies in the other side of the spectrum as well.
Very well said. And for a small team to get their software in the hands of an enterprise that can become an enterprise customer, like personally, I don't know a better way than to open source it,
Totally.
and it also covers some of the frequent, uh, for example, can we put our data there? Is it safe? Could I self-host it? Maybe I'm in a regulated
Yeah,
industry, or is this still gonna be around? What's the company? Is the company gonna be sustainable?
totally.
So a lot of these things, right? It helps with the adoption at the enterprise level, and it's not the case for
Totally.
closed source. Yeah,
Totally, totally. And our first enterprise customer came exactly from that as well. Because, not everyone goes out there putting their database credentials and random SaaS in the web. We do, like, no matter how much work we do to keep it safe, pen test and everything, sometimes people just don't have the permission. People just simply can't go against their company's policies, and it's just easier to self-host. So that's fine. That's totally, totally fine.
exactly. Now tell us about how you're approaching, growing the team. You told me earlier that it's you and your co-founder, just like us with Zaf. What's the
Yeah.
rationale there? You have fuel in the tank. Um, yeah, how are you approaching it?
Yeah, we have a lot of fuel in the tank. We have a lot of runway. So, you know, the decision about not hiring, it's mostly because, well, I first we are able to do everything that we have, set ourselves that we said we would do. So it's not been an issue to keep track of everything that's going on and do the work. I think that if you're focused, you're able to do the work. And the things that you cannot do are probably not important, because if something is important, it will be done, right? Sometimes if you add too many people too early, what ends up happening is that just you start doing things that are not important just to keep those people busy. And Microphone and I were both engineers, and we can churn out a lot of code. So this whole product that you've seen, it's built by two people, most of it. Now we have lots of contributors, but for 8 months it was built by two people. So I think you can get a lot more done in two people than most people imagine. If you just sit down and code, and I don't go to as many events and things like that. I just sit down and I code and I talk to customers, and that's the way to go. But anyway, to get back to future plans. Yeah, we do eventually want to bring more engineers to the team, but I think that's just so that we can provide more customer support to the folks coming in. Um, and of course help a little bit with new features, but it's more to provide good support and keep tackling all the things that customers are telling us. Because as you onboard more and more people, you start getting more and more feedback, and there's more and more feedback that is important, right? And if you have paying customers, which is our case, you also have to provide them support that they paid for. Um, so we do want
Exactly.
to eventually grow the team, but for now, we have been able to do everything, and I think just keeping it lean allows us to experiment for longer and remain focused. So that's what we've been doing.
100%. We follow the same strategy. So yeah, couldn't agree more. And you said like for support specifically, which ties to the business outcome of having an enterprise customer, big customer who does require the
Yeah,
support as part of their
totally,
contract and has the size of usage. Yeah, yeah.
totally,
So I love that. What
totally.
about the sort of like
And
marketing
what are the
aspect?
things
Oh, go
I
ahead. Sorry.
yeah. I was just gonna ask you. I don't know if you feel like this, but like I feel like you will always feel that there are more things to do than things that you can do. But like that will never change, right? Because you will onboard someone, and then there will just be more things to worry about. Like I don't think this problem ever ends. You know, I think you need to be wise in knowing what are the things that really need to be done. I don't know if you feel like this, but like I feel like this. I feel like things will there will always be more things to do.
Oh, for sure. There will be more things to worry about. And then if you hire a team, like you can't just go to the beach now and other people doing the work. Oh, I'm the CEO. I'm like
Totally.
that doesn't work that way. You work for them, and so oh yeah, 100%. And this is common YC advice. Like I've seen like all these videos, Michael and Dalton just stressing that, but not everyone follows it. Some people do grow their teams prematurely. Yeah, but
Yeah,
to each
yeah,
his own.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's very good advice from IC. I've heard it from them as well, and I think they're totally right. Totally right.
For sure. I was about to transition into marketing. How are you approaching it? I mean, being open source, building in public with open source already, and then tweeting already does cover it a lot. I'm just curious if you've experimented with anything else in specific, or like if there's a strategy in place for this.
Yeah, yeah. Not really, to be honest.
Yeah.
My strategy is do things and post about them.
Yeah.
That's
There you
as
go.
far as it goes. And I think the things that work well is
Mm-hmm.
basically writing about things that resonate with people more than just sharing your work. It's not only about like, hey, here's this new feature. It's more like, hey, the whole way in which we built this new feature, or like, here's why we're doing this. Here's what is wrong with the current alternatives, and here's why it's better. It's like talking about something that people can relate to, and not simply just pumping out features. And we don't even do it that frequently. Like or Twitter, for example, that you're showing now, it doesn't have as many posts. Um, but um, but LinkedIn usually works quite well for us. And overall, GitHub is also a great entry into Briefer as well.
And I like how you said that don't just post the what, but post the how and the why, and it's just gonna be much more
Totally.
compelling, useful content, um,
Yep.
for sure. And you mentioned LinkedIn. I don't know if we can pull that up, but you had this nice video being on a treadmill, like I think 3 days after your lunch, something like that. So I saw that, and I'm like, wow, let me learn more because this is amazing. So that's how I learned about Briefer, right? So it definitely works doing this. If
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
pain,
yeah.
to get, yeah.
It's founder-led marketing, right? It's part of the whole founder mode thing.
For sure, for sure. Now it is what we're like mid-August, so until the end of the year, anything you would like to share about what's cooking on the product or the plans of the team or the next quarters? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We have a big release coming next year, right at the beginning of the year. There will be plenty of things that will be new there. We'll call it Prefer 1.0, I think. We're not set on names yet, but it will be a big one. Probably early February. We still need to put a date on that, but there's a big release coming down the line. And you'll probably see a few of the things coming up in this repo right there that you're showing people if they want a sneak peek. In the next couple of weeks they can go in there, start and keep an eye on it. But besides the big release, right now it's more we're focusing a lot on incremental improvements, especially in terms of performance and making things fast. Our product already has lots of features and it's quite complete, and now we need to make sure that people really love it, because engineers, they care more about a product that does a few things and that does them really well than a product that tries to do everything and fails miserably. So that's our number one priority right now, and it's probably what we'll be working on, with the significant revamp that's coming on February for the 1.0.
Fantastic, man. Thanks so much for sharing what's coming up, and congratulations for the journey so far. I wish you the most growth possible moving forward.
Thank you.
And to kind of like land this plane, are there any last thoughts that you might want to leave people with, either founders or just developers getting started in their careers? Like anything you want to leave people with?
Yeah, I think that the thing to leave people with is, let me think.
Obviously, these things are not scripted. We kind of wing them, and so that's what you
Yeah,
gotta think. Yeah.
but I think that the most important thing to consider is, I think, exactly what you just said. I think if there's one takeaway people have from this call, is that open source is not a business model, but it can be a great for a great business model if you think it through. Uh, and I think that it is an explored way of developing an idea, especially if you're building for a technical audience. So I think that's the main takeaway.
Totally. And if people weren't convinced from this conversation, they can refer back to your blog post and the HN conversation,
Totally.
which is surprisingly, like civil compared to the average Hacker News post, or doesn't have enough, like hating on the product or whatever. But no, just kidding on the HN crowd. That's I'll second that. That's all I can say. I'll second that. And if people want to maybe ask you for any specific piece of advice, or maybe they want to apply to Y Combinator, they want to get connected to an investor, like what's the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, so Twitter is usually great. I haven't been posting a lot, but I'm always there reading, and I always respond to GMs if it's not someone trying to sell me their new list of 1,000 CTOs that their extremely smart AI has put together with personalization. Except for that, I respond to all the GMs I get. Um, so yeah, and LinkedIn is also a good place. I know many technical people don't like that, but they can find me there as well. Just Google for just search for my name. And if you want to send me an email, lucas@lucasfcosta.com is fine.
Solid, solid. And if you open an issue or a pull request on the Briefer repo, you will for
Totally.
sure hear from Lucas. Perfect,
Absolutely. I'll be
phenomenal.
there. I'll be there. I'm one of the people sending the commits, even though I have the CEO title. I'm still writing code. I think that's important. So
Love it, phenomenal. Lucas, thank you so much for the opportunity to chat. Really
thank you,
appreciate it.
Johannes.